Okay, a lot of the questions I've been getting have been around games. Some people wanted to do golf scores and stuff like that. But one of the more interesting ones I had been asked was, how do I just dynamically find out who had the highest score and, certain other little tricks. So I thought I'd do a quick tutorial on that. Here I have like a little game sheet. It's got the initials and maybe some numbers, or this is the person's ID, for example. And if you look at this, it's John Moore, so basically it's JM and then 24 or whatever, so I have those numbers. This is round 2, round 3, round 4, all the way to round 10. So one of the things here I want to find out is randomly, of that list right there, who is the one that had the highest score. So to start that, it's a little bit complicated because here's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to find the highest score, which is actually not that hard, but then you have to make sure that you find the highest score that matches and match that with the initials. So it's a little bit complicated. So what we're going to do, what I've decided to do for this is I've decided to do like an index match. Now again, you can do any you can do this in a few other ways. You can usually do many things within Google Sheets multiple ways. But this is the one that I when looking at this, I said, well, this is probably the quickest way that I could think of to do it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do an index match, and then I'm going to make a slight modification to make it look a little neater. Okay, so first thing, we'll index, because we want to find out which initials has the highest score in round 1, round 2, all the way down to round 10. So we're going to take this entire sheet as a reference. Make sure we anchor that. Excuse me. Anchor that. Now I'm going to check out the row. Now here's the interesting part. For the row, I'm going to need to do a match. The column has already been set. We're going to need column 1. So that's not a problem, but the row, it actually needs to do, I need to do a match with a max. So the first thing we do is we put a match. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick maximum of the number that we're looking for. So we're going to do match and then do a max. Excuse me. And we're going to take this number, this section right here, and we're going to do anchor just the rows. And if you'll realize, we're actually going to do this same column right here. Oops. Sorry about that. Oh, I pressed the column. Okay. So we do the same column right here. Also, then still anchor the rows. And because we want an exact match, we're going to have to do a 0. Close this off, and then do 1. Let me make sure I have the brackets. Match. Okay, so here we should do that. Alright, great. So now we see here that we have NW05. So let me just backtrack and show you a little bit what that match does. I'm going to break it down a little bit more. So this match right here. So say we're going to do the max. So we're going to find out the max for this one. So go max. So see here the max is 10.6, so that's correct. So how am I going to work on doing the match? Because I'm going to need to find the actual match row so that I can identify who is that, who those initials belong to. So we're going to do equals match. So for this, we're going to take this information, because that's what we're looking for, and we're looking for it in this column of values. And in this case, we're going to need an exact match. So we can see here that we're already in the third row, which is correct. So we found this maximum in the third row. And then what we're going to do, since we have that match, we're just going to put it in an index function and make sure that we point it to to column 1. So now we have it. Now we can go ahead and move this over. And here we have an empty winner list, and I'll show you the reason why that's important in a minute. But one of the things I like whenever I do any kind of a formula is I kind of like to make things a little cleaner. And in this case, in making things a little cleaner, it's going to help me in the long run to actually do the check listed part. Alright, in this case, I'm going to wrap this in a conditional. The conditionals I'm going to use are if and then is blank. Actually, it's conditional and a Boolean test. So it's going to be if is blank. So what I'm going to say is that if is blank, if this entire statement comes out as blank, then I'm going to print not listed. Make sure that you put this in quotation marks because it is a string. So if it is blank, which means that if it is true, then you put not listed. If it is false, then you go ahead and you do the calculation of the index function right here. I'm going to copy and paste that. And now we're going to close off. That's actually, yes, it should be okay. So now when we move this over, you're going to see not listed, not listed. Now in this case, it could be that particular initials, if you have a much longer list, this would come in handy because then you would say, okay, this is not listed, so which means that I would need to go back and find out where that is so I can put in the right information so my data is actually, is cleaner. So this is kind of a quick data cleaning formula exercise. So in this case, when I look at it, I go, okay, I'm going to have this, and I want to make sure I find out where exactly it's missing that information. So I put in a check listed section. So now that we've chosen to say not listed, we can actually use that to check exactly where it's not listed. Okay, so in this case, we're going to use a conditional statement again to tell us that basically if I'm showing here not listed, then you're going to tell me which row is the offending row, so to speak. So if that's the case, we're going to have to use that match statement from this part right here. And luckily I have it down here. What I am going to do is I am going to modify it a little bit to put in come in very handy. So I don't necessarily have to, it's not hard-coded in there. So make sure that we anchor the rows we should be good. So here's what our statement's going to look like. If this part right here equals not listed. Hold on a second, let me do one more thing first. Let me make sure I copy this properly. Just to make sure. Okay. So again, we're going to start equals if this right here equals not listed. Now you're going to tell me the row where it's not listed. Row goes out, ampersand, because I'm going to be concatenating this with the match function. And that's going to show me, if it says not listed, it's going to show me the row where it's not listed. So I can go back and correct it. But in the time, in the place where it is definitely everything's okay and you see something there that's a match, then I'm going to actually do, I'm going to input like a check mark. So to get the check mark, I'm going to go char, and the check mark is 128504. And close out. And we should be good. There we go. So now we're going to move these over. And see here that row 4 is the problem. So now that we have that check listed where it points to row 4, we can just basically go into that particular row and input and put in the information to make sure that the data is more consistent. Okay, so again, this is basically first what we did is that we basically checked to see which one, which number was the maximum who had the highest score. And then we put in the initials of the person who had the highest score using the index function with a match for the row. And we also encased that in an if is blank to show that if there is a blank, we're going to put something in there to say not listed or, not entered or whatever you choose. And then we're going to do a check listed so that we actually double check to see that this information has the right initials, and if it doesn't have initials, if it has that not listed, then we're going to see, okay, row 4 is the one with the empty information. Let's go and fill that out. Okay, that's it. Give it a try. Let me know how it works.